Hello, it's good to see you again today. I'm wondering if any of you are feeling a bit more sensitive at the moment, or whether you're finding that situations and events that wouldn't normally upset you or make you cross or make you feel anxious are making you feel a little bit more of those things. Or if you've just got an ongoing, underlying feeling that you might burst into tears or a sort of butterflies in your tummy or frustration or anger. I think a lot of us, when we go through big changes in our lives, feel like that. And there's a very good reason for it. Our bodies and our minds are only built to cope with so much stress. And big changes cause stress, good stress and bad stress, but stress to our bodies and our nervous systems. And depending on things that have happened to us in the past or things that are going for us in the present, our minds and our bodies will have different levels of being able to cope, different capacities for dealing with new stress coming in. Today, I'm going to tell you a story about two friends, Amman and Katy, and how their different ways of coping allowed them to have more or less capacity for the new stresses that transitioning to secondary school has brought into their lives. Now, Amman and Katy are best friends and have been since they were little. They live in the same street, they've both got an older brother and a younger sister. They go to the same school and they're transitioning to the same secondary school in September. Both of them have got quite big feelings about going to secondary school. They're excited, but they're also apprehensive. They're feeling a little bit uncertain about what it's going to be like. So they've got some good stress and some trickier stress going on in both of their bodies. I'm going to represent this by filling them up with a little bit of water to represent their stress levels. Now, despite being similar in lots of ways, Katy and Amman have got quite different lifestyles. Katy loves to stay up late watching her favourite programmes on Netflix, while Amman goes to bed at the same time fairly early every evening so that he wakes up feeling refreshed in the morning. Katy quite often wakes up a bit later feeling a bit groggy and like she can't be bothered. So we're going to put a little bit more into Katy's body and mind. Both of them love screen time, but whereas Amman knows that he needs to watch how much screen time he's having, and he goes outside and he plays his favourite games and he kicks a ball around and he loves painting and does that instead, Katy actually spends most of her day when she's not doing her schoolwork on her tablet. So we're going to put a little bit more in Katy's cup. Now, Amman is really close to his grandma, and anything that's worrying him, he tends to seek her out and talk about it. Also, his grandma sort of has a sixth sense and just knows when Amman's worried about something, and they'll have quite open discussions about it. Whereas Katy, even though her parents are loving and kind, finds it quite hard to talk to them. She worries that she'll upset them, and she worries that they're too busy to be bothered to deal with her problems. Her problems feel too small to bother any of the grown-ups in her house or outside of her house about. So she tends to bottle things up, and she's got this attitude of, I'll be okay, I can just get on with it, which is good in some situations, but means that we're storing up some of our big feelings, which can lead to tricky situations. So we're going to, again, add a little bit more into Katy's cup. Okay. So day to day, when normal life stresses happen. You have an argument with one of your grown-ups or a sibling at home, or you've got a piece of schoolwork to do that you're not quite sure about, you're feeling a bit uncertain about. Those things add a little bit of stress into our cups. Okay, so that one was some work that Amman wasn't sure about, and this is an argument that Amman had with his brother. So his levels of stress are getting higher, but he's still got quite a lot of room to be able to cope with those feelings. Whereas Katy has forgotten to do a piece of homework and realises the morning that it's due in that she hasn't done it, and she's really worried about upsetting her teacher and getting into trouble. And look what happens. Oh, Katy, those feelings have risen right up to the surface and leaked out everywhere. She's finding it really hard to manage those feelings and put in place good and healthy coping strategies to help her to feel okay. Now, Katy's cup has been full for a few weeks now, and she's finding it harder and harder to cope with little events that happen every day in her life. She's also got to the point where she isn't doing the hobbies that she enjoys anymore, and she doesn't really want to go out and see her friends. She can't be bothered, and also she worries that she's going to get really teary or feel really anxious in front of them, and it's really getting her down. Katy decides to take a really brave step for her and tell her dad, Ben, about what's been going on for her. She tells him that she's got all these big feelings and that she's finding it a bit hard to cope at the moment. She says to him that she thinks that she could do with some help and just talking to somebody. Her dad is really happy to help Katy, really pleased that she sought him out, because he's noticed that she tends to bottle up her feelings and has been worrying about that himself. So Katy starts to share some of her feelings and her worries with her dad. And by sharing them, they come up with some solutions together. They decide that every day before lunch, they're going to have a game of swing ball in the garden together. Katy's dad also reminds her that she really enjoys making Lego sets with her brother and sister. So she starts doing that in the evenings after dinner. She also starts going to bed a little bit earlier most of the time. And within a few weeks, she finds that when those little life stresses come in, even though she's got that worry and excitement about going to secondary school, she has enough capacity to be able to cope with them. I hope that you can see from looking at Katy and Amman's different ways of coping that by adding more healthy strategies into your life and more things that are good for us into our lives, we can create more capacity in our bodies and our minds to help us to deal with stresses and tricky situations. If you're not sure about what coping strategies that you could add into your life to help you to reduce those stressful feelings, you could have a look at some of my other videos. I would recommend starting with the relaxation investigation one. Now, for many of us, life isn't quite as straightforward as for Amman and for Katy. And perhaps in your life there's something really big going on that feels quite overwhelming and that is really hard to cope with. My recommendation for you is that you seek out a trusted grown-up and share that issue with them. Either somebody in your house or your family, or a grown-up outside of your home and your family that you have a good and trusting relationship with. And if you can't think of anybody, you can always call Childline, which is a free phone number that you can call any time of the day or night. And at the end of the phone, you will reach a kind and caring grown-up who will listen to and help to advise you with the difficult situation that you are dealing with. I really hope that those transitioning to secondary school videos have been supportive for you, and I want to wish you all the very best for your change to your new school, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.